Hello, Bible readers. It's Wednesday, August 19th. Today, our readings are from Exodus chapter 27 and chapter 28, and then Matthew, the whole of chapter 14. It is, this is not the most gripping part of the Old Testament, and yet it is important. It continues these important chapters about what exactly worship of God is to look like. And by exactly, I mean exactly, right? Like how many feet, how many cubits wide and long and everything else. But I think what's interesting for us in the 21st century, and having read enough history, maybe we know enough about like medieval history and how people placed importance and significance into the bread and wine of Jesus, or that is Jesus. The church for a long time has had a lot of conversation about what is the significance of the body and blood, the bread and wine in communion. Can stuff of this world, common elements like water, bread, and wine, can they take on almost magical properties? Some of us have placed magical kind of properties, and that's when religion feels superstitious or just different from what is believable or true for many of us. For others, it's like, well, if God can do anything, well, then why can't God choose to make these objects other? Holy is another word for other. It's interesting. It's a back and forth over the course of time. And so this one commentary says, these texts might permit us to see both the value and the danger in such a process. The value of investing the ordinary, like these clothes, for example, that they're supposed to wear, these very fancy clothes. The value of investing the ordinary with transcendent significance is essential to the development of culture, especially religious culture. The process protects life from becoming finally utilitarian or cheaply relativistic. And what they mean by that is day after day after day of just everything is done out of utility. What's special? What is transcendent? What is holy? How do you step into a space and feel a sense like a thin place where God shows up? And how do you as a community express that feeling of God's presence? Well, maybe through the clothes that the leader wears, or maybe it's through how the space is shaped or whatever. And that's one extreme, is to have it all set up in very particular ways where you do put significance into everything about it. But the danger, as the commentary goes on, is that a community can take these objects with such seriousness that it assigns ultimate meaning to what is not ultimate. That's the danger, right? So instead of thinking, this object reminds me God shows up here, all of a sudden the object becomes worshipable, as though it is a God unto itself. People do this with Scripture. Instead of Scripture pointing us to God or talking about God, many of us will talk about, I worship the Bible, as though the Bible is God itself. Okay, so that's something to think about as you read a not so exciting part of Exodus. Matthew, we're in chapter 14, the death of John the Baptist, the feeding of the 5,000, Jesus walking on the water. These are some of Matthew's most famous stories. We happen to be, if you're worshiping at First Lutheran at all, you might, or any Revised Common Lectionary Church, this is the section of Matthew we've been in the last couple weeks. And so this is all fresh in my mind. Maybe it's fresh in yours too. What I will say about this, feeding the 5,000 and Jesus walking on the water, these are very connected stories where one connects to another, and it will also connect to what's happening in chapter 15 with the Canaanite woman's faith. And so see how Jesus is seen by his own disciples, as they don't really have an imagination to say, wow, Jesus could feed all these people without them going into town. And then he calls upon them as having little faith, but then later we'll see who has big faith. That's a little preview for tomorrow. I am one with my God. My God is with us, all of us, at all times and in all places.